We've been talking about how difficult it can be when a parent remarries late in life, but we also have to watch out for those people who prey upon the elderly financially. Back to tell us how we can protect our loved ones from financial predators, we have with us from Buckley Le Chevalier, attorney Jay Taylor. Thank you.
You did a great job with that name.
She taught me.
Okay, very good.
Well, let's talk about a vulnerable person under Oregon law, because you were telling us earlier you're seeing a lot more cases now involving elderly abuse.
That's right.
Right.
You can be vulnerable. First of all, anybody over 65 would qualify as a person that is elderly and possibly vulnerable. But also anybody with dementia or Alzheimer's, anybody with physical incapacities that make them completely dependent upon others. Even, interestingly enough, people who are being detained by foreign governments are financially incapacitated because they can't manage their finances.
Right.
So anybody who is not able to manage their daily business, pay their bills, acquire and dispose of property, that sort of thing.
Why are you seeing such an increase in these number of cases? What's happening?
Well, of course, the baby boomers are aging, and we are living a long time. And a lot of people think, a lot of experts are telling us that there's going to be an explosion of Alzheimer's.
And is it because, too, of our care structure has changed? You know, 50 years ago, Grandma lived with family. Now Grandma goes to assisted care or some sort of facility as opposed to being with family. So families not involved every day?
That's right. And one of the main things that families need to do is stay in touch and stay involved, because our problem as lawyers is by the time we find out that Grandpa gave the title to the farm away to the maid, or that Grandma has changed the beneficiary on a $500,000 retirement plan, a lot of times the money's gone because we don't learn about that until the death of that elderly person. So if family members are paying attention, they're going to notice that the cherished Martin guitar has been given away, that somebody's just ran out and bought a new car, and where would they get the money to do that? So you'll start noticing things like that. If your elderly family member we find out, has really had a substantial amount of money taken away or has given money away, the first thing to do is to make a written demand to return it. Because the law really provides that if an elderly person makes a written demand to return the assets, they have to give it back. And that would be a bright line in the
So one of the big tips is to keep track, is to make sure you're visiting your elderly relative.
Yes.
Make sure you know what's going on. What would be another tip? Because there are elderly people who are being taken care of by legitimate caretakers. So you want to make sure that you're not imposing either.
Sure.
So what would be a time when it's legitimate to be taking money from an elderly person, and how do you realize when it's not?
Well, the law says that elder financial abuse is the wrongful taking of property or money, or threatening and intimidating and making an elderly person afraid that you're going to do that. So what's wrongful? Obviously, physical abuse, threats of violence, intimidation, misappropriation, which is just stealing. Grandpa, sign this document. It's a birthday card, okay?
Oh, right.
And guess what? It's a title to the house.
That's going to be a hard
sort of
thing to prove, though.
Well, the most difficult thing to prove is something we call undue influence, and that's when you have a very vulnerable, susceptible person,
Right.
and they are persuaded that the caregiver, for example, is the only one who really cares about them
Right.
anymore, the only one who loves them. And so they willingly give away things. And in the courts, we have certain things we look for to see if that's happening.
We had an occasion in our family where a caregiver claimed that our relative borrowed money from her, which was just utterly ridiculously untrue, and kept saying, "You still owe me $150, whatever it was." Is that common? Where they, I guess that would be trickery.
Yes, that would be misappropriation. If you have someone who has memory problems, they might believe that they owe that money.
As a concerned family, it's got to be difficult to say, okay, mom, dad, grandma is getting older. They're under the care of somebody else. I need to go in and take over control of their assets and their finances. That's got to be a difficult thing to do because the elderly person has to agree to it, and I would imagine they feel suspicious, and they feel protective of their own autonomy. How do you deal with those situations? Is that, one, a good idea, and two, how do you do it?
Well, there are nice ways to do it, and we in our firm, what we try to do is set up a family meeting. And I will sometimes represent the elderly person, and I will counsel the elderly person. This is going to be good for you. Here's why I think you're going to like it. Let's pick someone that you're really comfortable with and you believe in, and give them these powers, and we will once a year review what they're doing, so there'll always be somebody else, a third party who doesn't benefit, taking a look at the accounting. So that's one way to do that. Sometimes you just have to file for a conservatorship. In Oregon, we call a conservatorship the legal power to run someone else's finances. And in that case, the elderly person might object, but a probate judge will decide if that needs to happen.
Can you do anything if you're non-family and see someone being taken advantage of by maybe their own family or somebody who's non-family as well?
Sure. First of all, the state can investigate and will investigate if it rises to the level of criminal activity, or it might. So if you notice that your neighbor is giving everything they own away to the gardener or something, you can certainly report that to the state. You can go to that elderly person and say, are you being threatened? Are you comfortable with this? Is this really what you wanted to do? And they can make a demand.
A lot of people probably watching right now say, well, this is all fine and good, and I wish I knew it 2 years ago, because we've been ripped off in our family. Is there any recourse for people who maybe they find out after a relative has passed that this has happened?
Yes, you can sue. We can try to get the will set aside if it's a matter of somebody changing their will at the last minute. There's a lot we can do. The biggest problem is if the money's been spent. You know, so we gave the house to the gardener refinanced, took all the money, and took a cruise.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
This is such a fascinating topic.
Really
I think
is.
everyone's been touched by this. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming in.
Right. If you'd like to find out more information, just give them a call, 503-620-8900. We'll also put all the information on our website at katu.com. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate
Thanks.
it. All right, good stress and like